except when I'm assigned something, we're going to work our way through Proverbs and the different themes of Proverbs. So some of you have seen before. Back then, when I first introduced it, I introduced this definition of wisdom. The right truth, the key word there is truth. Because it's not just truth from the world, although that certainly can be a part of it. It is the truth that we talked about last week, that is from God and is from His Word. So we have to know that. You're not going to have true wisdom. You're not going to understand what wisdom is. You're not going to be able to live wisely without that kind of truth, without understanding it. In the real world, it has to be relevant to our life. And that's the beauty of Proverbs. That's the beauty of wisdom. It speaks to the issues of our lives, even though it's about 2,500 years old, the version of Proverbs that we have. Right truth in the real world at the right time. At the right time. And I emphasize that here today because I'm emphasizing our time right now. The time in the semester that this is. We're generally at the beginning of the semester. We got about, 9 more months we're going to live with each other. And I want to challenge you to something today, to some truth, to some wisdom that's going to have a huge effect, I believe, on our time together this year at Clark Summit University. Now, I got a bunch up there, so I kind of work my way through this and dissect it. But I want you to understand this before we get into the meat of what I want to talk about today. The controlling principle of the book of Proverbs, of wisdom, is this idea of the fear of the Lord. The fear of the Lord is a very common phrase found in the Old Testament. Interestingly enough, it's never found in the New Testament. And the reason is because in the Old Testament, it kind of has the equivalent to how we would say in the New Testament, kind of saving faith. What do you put in your faith in? Old Testament believers were called to put their faith in God and the promises that He had given them. And they demonstrated that by this idea of the fear of the Lord. So I've defined it up there. That's not my original definition. I forgot where I got it from. But it says the fear of the Lord is the ongoing attitude of love and awe. So it's not an afraid fear. It's not like we're living under the table afraid of everything that God's going to do to us. It's a respect type of thing. But it's a respect born out of our love and our awe for God, of how incredible He is. That moves me to choose over and over again. It's not a one-time thing. It's a constant thing that we've got to be reminded of, to obey God. Fear of God means obedience to God, even when it's easier to do something else. Now, I know it's kind of hard to see, but that little verse there I kind of stuck on the side this morning when I was thinking through what I was going to say. I always come back to this verse when I think of the fear of God. It's actually from Psalm 36, verse 1. If you can see it there, it says, sin whispers in the hearts, or whispers to the hearts, deep within the heart, because they have no fear of God. When sin affects us, when sin whispers in our heart, when sin causes us to stumble, when we allow ourselves to go in that direction, it's usually because our fear of God is not there. You see, sin whispers in our hearts. It doesn't usually shout. It's usually not some big thing, or I woke up this morning, you know what? I'm going to go destroy my life by doing something stupid. It's usually a product of time, of a whisper in our hearts. So the fear of the Lord is the controlling principle of the book of Proverbs, the idea of wisdom. So today we're going to talk about the idea of friends. And in verses or chapters 1 through 9 in Proverbs, Solomon, who we're told, is talking to his son. He tells us that in the very first verse of the book of Proverbs. And he's advising his son. He's trying to get his son to understand this is how you live wisely in this world. So in these first 9 chapters, he kind of walks them through this picture. Here's what foolishness looks like. Here's what wisdom looks like. Here's what a fool does. Here's what a wise person does. This is bad. This is good. And he builds this case with his son and to us through him of the need for us to pursue wisdom. And then he gets to chapter 10, and it all changes. And in chapter 10 through 31 are the wisdom sayings and the Proverbs sayings that probably we're most familiar with. And almost every one of these could be taken all by itself to communicate something, which is unusual in studying the Bible. Now, from that, you can take things, group it together, and begin to develop a better understanding of what Solomon is saying about that particular topic. And so today our topic is friendship. And we're going to look at what the Proverbs have to say concerning friends. So I go back to where I started here. I go back to this idea of influence. How do the friends that we surround ourselves influence who we are? How do we influence the friends that we have close to us? Now, we know there's all kinds of levels of friends. We've got people that are just kind of acquaintances. You know, I've got, I don't know, last time I looked, about 1,200 or so friends on Facebook. We're all tight. I'm tight with every one of them, just like that, right? No. Half those people I don't even know, probably, by this time. Most of them I recognize, and then there's a few, you know, that will respond to my dumb posts once in a while that are probably my real close friends. And we all have that. We have acquaintances. You can't know everybody in this room. You might be able to recognize them and recall all their names. I try to do that, but I fail at that often. There's many of you, because we're new here, right? I can't put a name to you right now. My goal is by the time we get to the end of the year, I can do that. But even at that, we're still just acquaintances. But then there's another group of people that are relatively close to you that you have a more personal relationship with. And these are people that you know something about. You know them. You know who they are. You kind of know what they're about. And then from that, there's a more intimate circle that we might call our best friends or our closest friends. And there's influence at all three levels of those. The question I have for you again today is, what kind of influence is it? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it somewhere in the middle? Well, Proverbs has a lot to say about it, so I'm going to cover a few of these here and then make kind of my big point that I want you to see today. Number one, friends are there for you. You've heard that thing, right? Friends are always there for you. That's not necessarily true, but they should be, those close ones. We know that. Proverbs 17:17 says, do I keep getting weird things when I go this way? I'll try not to do that. If I go over here, is that better? There we go. That works. Proverbs 17:17 says, a friend loves at all times. A brother's born for a time of adversity. Our friends are there for us when we need them, when things are difficult. Proverbs 26 says, many claim to have unfailing love, but a faithful friend who can find? Who are those people that are there when you need them the most? Friends say hard things to us. They speak the truth to us. We don't always like to hear it, but our real friends speak truth. Proverbs 27:6 says, wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. You see, if somebody doesn't care about you, they're just going to say what they think you want to hear. You have friends like that, right? They're not really going to be honest with you. They're just going to say yeah, okay, that looks great. And they laugh and you walk out the door because you look like you're silly, right? That's not the kind of friends you want. They're the kind of friends that will say, yeah, go do that. It's not going to hurt you. You do you. That's not the kind of friends you want. No. Friends who care about us, they say hard things to us. They give an honest answer. That's a sign of true friendship. Friends push you to grow. Here's that verse again. We walk with the wise, we become wise. A companion of fools suffers harm. Iron sharpens iron, one of the most famous proverbs of all. One person sharpens another. You see, Proverbs tells us that we ought to be iron to each other. It's that picture of forging and how things get sharpened, right? And the idea that if we are true friends, we're going to help each other. We're going to help each other to grow. And friends are fun. That's why they're our friends, right? We should have fun with them. We should enjoy life with them. We should have a good time with them. Proverbs 27:9 says, perfume and incense bring joy to the heart, and the pleasantness of a friend springs from their heartfelt advice. Things smell good, yeah? And friends that are pleasant to us, that's a good thing. And a friend loves at all times. True friends love us. Friends should be fun. But here's where I want to go today. I want to camp on this for a minute. I'll talk about how we apply this idea of friendship and this idea of the influence that people have in our lives, including the influence of our friends here at Clark Summit University. Because, I'll be honest, your friends aren't always the best influence on you, even your friends here at CSU. I wish it was different. It's not. We're human beings. We struggle with things at times. We get bad attitudes. We do things that we shouldn't do. And unfortunately, that can have an influence on other people in our life. And so we need to be careful about that, and we need to think about it. And so I'm challenging you today to think about, are you being a companion of fools, or are you walking with the wise? Because I think if we deal with this issue now, and we have a heart-to-heart conversation about it now, it can influence the rest of this entire semester and the rest of this entire year here at CSU. Go back to the beginning where I started. How to have success? Like the formula's right there. Proverbs tells us we have success when we hang around wise people. But we fail when we start to hang around people whose influence is taking us down the wrong road. So I want to challenge you to do two things with this. And this is where I say it's going to get a little personal and a little manipulative maybe. And again, I don't want you to look at that person beside you because they may be that person, but I want you to do that serious assessment, that serious evaluation. Which of these categories are they in? What are you letting into your life? Who are you letting into your life? And maybe more importantly, who are you letting influence you? And so you may have somebody that's sitting right there beside you, or somebody that you're spending a lot of time with, that you may need to make some really hard personal decisions. And just say to that person, I need to get some space. I need to find some other influences, because this isn't going the way it should go. Because we're not good for each other. We're not helping each other. And I know that's hard. I know that's difficult to do. And I know how, personal that can be taken. But I'm telling you, as Proverbs tells us, as Solomon tells us, if we're hanging around fools, we're headed for trouble. You may have to say to somebody, I can't hang around you that much anymore. I need to put some distance between us. Now, I want to read something. This comes from, I'm paraphrasing a lot of it, but I want to read it just because I want to say it very carefully. And it actually comes from a pastor at my church, Jason Mitchell. Spoke about this very subject a few weeks ago. I'd already decided what I was going to say, and this fit perfectly. Because some of you might be thinking right now, that doesn't sound very nice, Dr. Higley. They're my friends. What do you mean I shouldn't spend so much time with them? What do you mean I might need to put some distance between them? That sounds very judgy. Sounds very judgmental. There's a big difference between being judgmental and using good judgment. Good judgment is needed. Judgmentalism, we'll leave that for another day. He says it's not judging. Judging someone is telling them how to live their life. When you got people in your life telling you should do this, you should do that, without any care, compassion, and out of not a right motivation, that's being judgy, being judgmental. In using good judgment, you're determining how you're going to live your life. You're not telling anybody they need to change. They may need to change, but that's not what you're saying to them. You're saying, look, if you're going to live that way, if that's what you're going to do, I'm not going with you there. It's not the direction I want to be in. I want to use wisdom. I want to use good judgment. The Bible calls that discernment. And we may need to make some difficult decisions to put a little space between someone and ourselves so that we're not walking down that road of foolishness with them. So I'm not judging you, but I'm challenging you to take ownership of that relationship. You can't control what your friend does, says, or feels, or whatever, but you can control what you do. You can control how that influences you. And the truth of the matter is, there may be somebody in your life that you need to put some distance between you and them. Somebody here, somebody back home, somebody you work with, I don't know. But that relationship is taking you down a road towards foolishness. But then there's the other side of this coin, the other side of this proverb that says, walking with the wise will help us to become wise. And here is the positive side of what I want to say today. This is what I want to challenge us in today. This is what I want CSU to be characterized by this year. I want to challenge you to make this our goal. And that is to be a community, a family of people who are concerned about wisdom and living the right way and bringing other people along with us in that process. If we stay on that red side, it can be a long year for a lot of people. But if we collectively commit ourselves to the other side, to being wise, to walking with the wise, to be influenced by those who are wise, this would be the most successful, incredible year in the history of this institution. And I think we can do it. I'm challenging you to do that. In the middle of the semester, and all of a sudden you really am, and surrounding ourselves with others that are going to help us in that process. And to being that person that helps the other people along the way. We all have our foolish moments. I'm going to tell you a story. So many of you know I coach our women's softball team, and I haven't been doing that for a while, but I came back to do it this year. There's a bunch of changes that were going on, and part of that change at the time was Coach Shao became our athletic director. Now, I have known Coach Shao for, I think, 6 years, something like that. When I first started teaching here in 2001, he had already been here, coached our men's basketball team then. Eventually he became the athletic director. He moved away for a while, came back, and now is back as our athletic director. And so we have an interesting relationship. We have this long history of friendship. It's been a very good history. But we also have some kind of organizational relationships that we have. So in the org chart of Clark Summit University, I'm kind of up there near the top, right under Dr. Lido with a couple other people. And Mike is not there. He's at a different level than that. And so there are some things that I have to speak to and I have to talk about, and even things with him to say, look, Mike, here's kind of how we're going to do this. I appreciate your perspective. Let me help you think through why. And we have that conversation. So I sort of have a position of authority over him, although he doesn't report directly to me. But when he became the athletic director, all that changed. And I came back to coaching. Now he has a position of authority over me. He's the athletic director. I got to report to him how I run our ladies softball team. And so one of the really good things Mike wants to do, he wants to meet with each coach on a weekly basis. I got to meet with him and report to him how well I'm doing. Never had to do that in all my years of coaching. It'll be good. So we had our first meeting the other day over in the cafeteria. Had lunch together. And so as Mike is, he's not bashful about asking you anything. So he asked me this question. He said, Bill, are you having your devotions? And I thought about lying for a second. I said, no, not like I should, Mike. He said, okay, I'm going to pray for you then. I'm going to keep asking you that question. I said, good. You need to ask me that question. And then he said, Bill, how you doing with your wife? Because he cares about her. He cares about how I treat her. I said, I think I'm doing okay, but you could ask her. He said, well, let me tell you something I did the other night. You know how Mike is. And he begins to tell me this story about how he was pretty rude to his wife. He says, I can't be like that. And I said, well, Mike, it's interesting you said that because actually I said something yesterday to Susan I probably shouldn't have said. It was just, I was frustrated about something. I took it out on her. He says, yeah, I know. All right, we're going to hold each other accountable to that. So every week, I know I'm going to get a question about how I treat that lady over there. And that's a good thing because he cares about me. He cares about her. I care about his wife, Val. And we're going to ask each other that question, not because we're perfect in it, and we both know we're not perfect, but because we want to be wise, and we want to be great friends to each other, and we want to take care of each other in that process. That's my challenge to you. Start asking each other some hard questions, some truthful questions, and give truthful responses. You're not going to be perfect. Guarantee you you're not. None of us are. But boy, it really helps when we have people who are getting in our face in the right way and saying, hey, that's not where you should be. You see, that's what it means to walk with the wise. And I think if we collectively, as a group of people, commit ourselves to doing that this year, I have no doubt the level of success this year will be in all kinds of ways, including academically and all kinds of other ways, emotionally and spiritually. But I also know if we ignore that and go to that other side, and we just let stuff go, and we start going down paths and directions, and we're not held accountable to that, it could also be one of the worst years we ever had. I don't want that. I want the success side for every one of us. That's my prayer for you this year. Pray with me. Father, I thank you for these students. I thank you for bringing us together here at Clark Summit University. I thank you for your love for us. And Lord, that we can have a very personal relationship with you because ultimately you are the best friend that any one of us could ever have. And Lord, you tell us because of that, that's how we are to relate to other people. And we know we're not going to know everybody in this room in a real close, personal, intimate way. But we do have a group of people that are close to us and that know us really well. And we know that we can have a great influence on them, or we can also have a destructive influence on them. And so, Father, it's my prayer, and I ask every one of us will commit ourselves to this as we are in the process of beginning this new academic year. That you'll help us commit to being people of wisdom, to surrounding ourselves with other people who are committed to that. People who fear you and love you and want to obey you. And man, if we do that, Lord, I can't wait to see your blessing in that. And I ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. You are dismissed.